Meanwhile, on Savali,
That sounds like an African planet name.
you only say that probably because phonetically it resembles Savannah.
That and Swahili and Ghana.
Yeah. Alright, so for the time being, since we're just at the beginning of a planet, Ratchet just has to delve a bit deeper and see what can happen. Don't worry, he will find very quickly what to do, basically.
Watch out, Ratchet. You don't have Clink on your back, so you don't have any way to fly. Not your rocket boots or jetpacks,
Actually,
which
he
have been a
already, as
thing.
showcased in the Fail City, he has hover boots. So.
Weird question. You wouldn't happen to know anything about building a Dimensionator, would you?
Ratchet? Ratchet! Gary! your reputation precedes you.
Yeah.
You'll need to go to the interdimensional archives. My apprentice can help you.
Dude, you need to stop skipping leg day.
Town under attack?
How did you know?
This happens a
Check
lot.
it out.
If you notice, the Gary is from the same species that the Goose for Less are, so basically the inhabitants on Savali here are their counterparts, basically. So the joke is that, instead of actually being dude bros wanting to wage war and be mercenaries, here they're pacifist monks.
See, they're not goons in this universe.
Clearly.
Just beyond the town. It must be the
Also, notice how Ratchet doesn't say he's one of the good ones. Follow his example, Rivet.
That's a new one.
It was not my fault that the Lombax got away.
So yeah, that's instead a sniper bot. Thankfully, it's busy with the sand sharks, so we can actually ambush it. Later on, you will get a proper sniper weapon for some counter snipering. And if you noticed, all the major contraptions are still piloted by one of the small nefarious bots that like sticks out. So that's usually the weak spot that you can potentially exploit.
I love how the troopers say, an intruder, someone fun, like they like being shot at.
Or they are confident that they will shot them.
Sorry, but we're Han, and Han shot first.
Sure.
Admit, I get why people don't like those changes, but I've never been too fussed about them.
Well, it's what's the term? Appeal to trivial. That leads to basically appeal to triviality, Jova. Precisely because it's not that big of a deal, it makes you wonder why they even did that.
That is actually a good point. Like, okay,
That's the
I feel like
crux of the question. It's just such a minor change of it, and for what? Because people, may question the morality of one of your main characters who might not be, too good, and instead being a merciless killer. Oh no, so terrible.
It's not like in the director's cut of Rocky 4 where Apollo, spoilers. Apollo's death actually kind of means something a bit more in that version of the movie as opposed to, oh yeah, Apollo died, but he was my best friend.
oh, they actually added more to it in the director's cut.
I guess
Yeah,
they
yeah.
basically reconverted some deleted scenes tied to it, potentially, and that's
Yeah.
probably my guess to it.
Pretty much,
But, just a few minutes before, Obi-Wan might have potentially killed someone by cutting their arms off and exsanguinating them, but, I'm sure I'm supposed to actually be concerned about the actual smuggler,
Although it's like you said, we don't even know if that is the reason, since I don't think we ever got a reason for why they did that. Like, okay, I'm someone who will defend a good chunk of the changes made in special editions, since most of them seem to have been made to line up the original trilogy better with the prequels and whatnot. Now, I guess God bless them for keeping in the fact that Leia basically made out with Luke, which, to be fair, they didn't know, even though Return of the Jedi
knew.
has hers. Although, even though Return of the Jedi
Also, R2-D2 technically knew, the motherfucker was not telling.
And the funny thing is, when Leia says at the end of Return of the Jedi, in a way, she says, deep down, I knew Luke was my brother. And I love how some people have made edits that show how Han technically makes that bewildered expression after she tells him he knows and has him flash back to that moment in Empire Strikes Back where Leia is snogging Luke on the bed and whatnot.
That also reminds me, Joe Vibe, you actually checked out instead the backstroke of the West.
Oh god, yes, I did see that in a watch session and whatnot. I would not mind even covering that for a commentary. That thing
I don't
is
even know where to
comedic
start with
genius.
that. Dweebs, do you know what that is?
Another town saved.
What? Sorry.
Backstroke of
Backstroke
the
of the
West. Okay, the best,
Never heard of
the
it.
simplest explanation I can give you is that it's a very rough, very rough and bad translation of episode 3, but that in itself is not saying much, because it transcends just a simple, you know, classic, haha, Google Translate, bad translation kind of deal.
Gary said his apprentice is at the archives.
Interdimensional anomaly detected.
No! Whoa!
Alright, time to meet Gary's apprentice.
You alright?
Voiced by, of all people, Deborah Wilson, who is clearly not in her natural comfort zone. I wonder what was the idea behind the casting.
I think it was Gary's apprentice. I need to build a Dimensionator.
Oh dear. Well, there's little I can do, seeing as my archives are walking away. How do I get back up there?
Oh, you're his apprentice. Maybe we
Deborah
could
Wilson,
together?
wow, what a selection. I mean, don't get me wrong, great actress and whatnot.
I can
but,
definitely tell through her performance that she's struggling a lot to keep it up, so I hope
Things
she
go
will actually
badly,
paid
which
well.
they won't. We do
Ironically,
this
she'd be better
Questions
fitting for
asked.
doing the sassy black mama voice, but whatever.
Sure.
Alright, we will learn about the name of the apprentice soon enough. But for the time being, all you need to know is that Ratchet decides to take a liking and to go. And here you get a new pair of hover boots. I don't know why didn't Ratchet bring his own, but you know, Rush of the Nature was not expecting the party to get attacked, I guess.
So, here we go, the big switcheroo. Ratchet gets a Clank's counterpart for this dimension because, I mean, look at her, she's so obviously Clank's
Although,
counterpart.
interestingly enough, I'm sad to say in advance, this apprentice, Clank's counterpart, doesn't really do much in terms of gameplay. She doesn't have the helipack. Okay, she will participate in one of the fixed dimension minigames,
It's a pleasure.
but otherwise, all the stuff that she does, it's mostly in cutscenes. It's actually very weird.
Ah.
Again, you'll be able to see by the end of the game what I mean.
We call it the Badlands Temple.
I find it interesting how a lot of actors seem to have quite a bit of overlap with stuff that they were in and whatnot. While Deborah Wilson wasn't in Marvel's Sun Rising, she was in another Marvel's game, Marvel's Avengers, as Okoye.
Alright, before moving on with liberating the 3 temples that the apprentice told us to fix in order to reach the archives, let's immediately beeline towards the side objective because it's actually my favorite, for obvious reasons that will become clear very soon.
Ah, there is one of our senior archivists.
Whoa, can it be? A brother Lombax?
You, know we're not related, right?
Cha we are, by our mutual thirst for knowledge. Check this out. A shrine the Lombaxes built ages ago, containing a lore...
The Lombax apparently were in this place, in fact they were made the archive and they left something called the Lords. They're orbs with lore inside them, henceforth they call Lords. So, Ratchet is the only one who can actually collect them, so collect them and learn a bit more about the Lombax. It will not be that much, but it will be a bit informing on what the Lombax were doing during their mass migration. but you will need to get there. Now, you can technically get to this shrine immediately, but I forgot, and I thought it was more of a case of, oh, you need to collect the orbs and bring them there. So don't worry, I will showcase me getting to all places. Also, look at that, one of the beasts that they were used as steeds in A Crack in Time by the Agorians. And this Savali acts particularly a bit as a small sandbox type of level where you can do a couple of different minor, very microscopic missions that allows you to get smaller wards like the Lords or a Golden Bolt or anything. So again, I'll mostly excise the fluff and you know, get to the important parts only to showcase what I can do. It's worth noting that the hover boots have a bit of a rework here, where they actually already have a decent enough speed compared to their previous counterparts, and you can basically ignite them with a bit of, you know, pressing the R2 button in order to actually go even faster if you want. So that's actually pretty neat. For the time being,
So,
this first of the temple that we need to free just has a bunch of Emperor Nefarious robots we need to clean up.
So you mentioned that eventually we'll be able to switch between Ratchet and Rivet. I'm guessing we'll also be able to swap if either Clank or
Apprentice,
the Apprentice is equipped.
Only for story reasons. You'll be able to see basically which character gets paired with whom and for what reasons.
Oh, because I thought at some point you mentioned like we're gonna get like the ability to freely switch between them as we please.
No, well, only technically speaking, only after you completed the planets, and like I said, they are tied to the specific planets where they're on. You know, so you know you cannot play with Rivet on a planet that Ratchet handled, and vice versa.
Okay, so
that really felt weird because essentially this confines the arena to be played only with Rivet, at least as far as I know. I haven't noticed if there's something that I can do to actually, you know, switch around.
Okay, so for all intents and purposes, this game is relatively linear and basically, you know, each planet you play on, just expect to have each set of characters that you play on for that section.
Basically. Although there
Fair
will
enough.
be, compared to, similar a bit to the early games, there will be a bit of revisits later on due to story reasons that will allow you to backtrack to a couple of planets which will expand a bit more on their sections, you'll be able to see.
Thank you, Ratchet.
Alright, let's free up the monks. This really feels also a classic type of Spyro mission where you needed to free the inhabitants of the world from their oppressor and they were locked in a specific place.
Beautiful.
Brothers, I am relieved you are all right.
It is like so wonderful.
Good to know that a robot was amongst the holy monastery.
There's a reason why the apprentice is here. In fact, Ratchet and her dialogue, while you get from place to place, also helps out to know a bit, but you will get proper story cutscenes detailing that later on.
And they just ascended.
Yeah, because they're monks, Jova. They have, you know, specific powers, don't you know?
I have to go now. Our planet needs us.
But you're here already.
Even if it's good. So apparently they just teleported somewhere else. Okay, I thought they were going to be like, I thought they were going to be like the elves in Lord of the Rings and say, you know what, we could help out, but nah, we're just going to leave your world.
Not to worry, this time. No, not to worry. This time they did not die on the way to their home planet.
No, thank God.
But that said, though, again, if Gary's anything to go by, they're very muscular except for the legs.
Again,
and I'm guessing that's because they do those meditating poses.
And because the devs use the models of the goons for less, so just, you know, in a different context.
I guess it just feels a lot more emphasized here, because I think the goons usually have, like, armor and whatnot that covers the skinniness of their legs.
Here, again, more recycled models from the 2016 game is just so weird. Anyway, we have unlocked one of the altars with the Lords, so let's go collect it, shall we? This fucking Darksiders looking altar, which really feels way too hardcore for something the Lombax made.
Damn. I guess the Lombaxes of this dimension were more edgy.
Yeah, or, well, let's listen to what we know. They're all entries from one specific Lombax, and they're with a specific quest, mapping the entirety of the dimensions.
Caden came in. Apparently, the council.
Caden, if you forgot, is Ratchet's father.
They want me to expand it by mapping every dimension in existence. Yeah, that might be impossible.
So yeah, for apparently Ratchet's father wanted these mysterious Lombax to map all of the dimensions in existence, even though there are a near infinite amount of them. Like, good luck, buddy, I suppose.
Okay, are these logs from the original dimension, or are these logs from Rivet's dimension?
Yes, the implication is that the Lombaxes travel through dimension and to dimension, collecting their counterparts as they went along the way, and Rivet was just left behind. Accidentally.
Interesting. You know, that kind of just raised the implications that, shoot, maybe Rivet's tribe weren't even natives of this dimension. Maybe it was just part of a big trip that eventually they left around one of their stops.
I don't think so, mostly because the Lombaxes, also yes, you can have the different filters similar to Shadow the Colossus. So interesting.
Just what I always wanted for some reason.
If you wanted a noir kind of look and everything. No, it's important to know that the Lombaxes here built also the archives and everything, and they're very important. So I argue it's more of a case where it doesn't really particularly matter what their native dimension was. It still mostly implied that it was Ratchet's, because the entire reason for their migration was specifically to avoid Tachyon, which was actually trying to hunt them down, and even hid the Dimensionator in order to prevent, potentially someone to follow them. But if I had to guess, it was a case where they made sure that they traveled scattered throughout different dimensions in order to avoid having the Kragmites, finding them eventually. At least that's my speculation. Like I said, on a lot of things, this game is more of a stepping stone more than anything. There are still a lot of questions that are not answered.
Speaking of which, another orb.
Let's get to the second part of the logs.
But yeah, I bring up the possibility because, okay, if we're to believe that all Lombaxes originated from Ratchet's home dimension, that would at least explain why there are some discrepancies
No,
here.
my big speculation is that, again, Lombaxes existed in all dimensions, and the Lombaxes from Ratchet's dimension migrated and took with them also the others. But again, second entry.
I thought about it over lunch. I don't think it's
You sure about that?
The Dimensionator, which Caden loaned me.
Oh no.
Which has already been approved, and to never sleep again. Work starts
That can only end well.
Crunch time, everyone's favorite.
Oh god, is this an Insomniac cry for help?
What did you want to know about the Lombaxes?
We believe the Lombaxes used, and perhaps built, the temples here. Do you
Of course they did. In addition to having all that technology, they had times to make temples upon which people could worship them.
I see. Thank you anyway.
Well, let's get to part 3 then.
Map my first dimension today.
Alright, let's see if you can recognize this first one.
So vivid, like, whoa. And there were these creatures. One of them even looked like a Lombax, but he had smaller ears, a mask, and a cane, and I think he was pulling some kind of heist? Whatever it was, it looked cool.
Here's one of the implications. Apparently, all the different IPs that PlayStation owns count as alternate universes to this.
So that means that Sly is an alternate universe version of Ratchet, apparently, since,
Well,
according to the
not
voice, they
necessarily-
mistook him for a Lombax.
Yeah, true, but more in a case of, not necessarily about quantum causality that leads to characters resembling each other, but more of a case where they still count as alternate dimensions. So, let's say something like, say, The Last of Us, Infamous, and so on. Unless they are already in the same universe, like the intricate lore between Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls.
God, I forgot that was even a thing, honestly.
Alright, let's see this next one.
Colorful as the first one, but the creatures were definitely stranger. Their bodies were made out of
Oh no.
relics, but
Oh.
break apart and still be alive. It was
Oh.
It's Knack, baby!
I just want to learn the stories of all these.
You know, it was so nice of Insomniac to throw Knack a bone, since I don't think we're getting that third game.
To be fair, even Astrobot had an entire, bot dedicated to Knack himself, so, Sony still remembers that, even more so than something like Twisted Metal or Resistance, so that's so fucking wild to me.
You know, how sad is it that Knack probably gets more respect in other games than in his own? Because remember, half the times in his games are them going on about how, oh, he's a little too weak or too easily hurt and whatnot, which is
There you go.
extrapolated by the gameplay, too.
As a throwback from the also Torn Spyro games, you get to chase a couple of these altars until you can actually, board them properly with different rewards, like in this case another orb. That's pretty neat.
Alright, next world.
Third dimension was cubes. Really, really smart cubes. I don't know what else to say there, except that I might have to stop doing these for every dimension I visit, because there's a little bit less than an infinite...
Basically, this one, if you pay attention, it was basically Intelligent Cube slash Kurushi. Interesting that they bothered to
Wow.
reference that.
That one is pretty obscure.
Sadly, we will get only two, if I recall correctly, more references, because the cartographer, Lombax themselves have said that they need to get back to work.
Alas. So, again though, the fact that he mistook Sly for a Lombax implies that raccoons over there are the equivalent to Lombaxes here, which means are Lombaxes supposed to be fashioned after
Well,
raccoons?
no, remember, more leonine. I guess it's more of a case of,
lion.
just saw a creature with a tail and everything, so, mistook accidentally, especially because the galaxies that Ratchet's Dimension had did not had creatures very similar to Sly.
Okay, I saw the Black lore. Any other lore that I missed?
You missed the one about Intelligent Cube slash Kurushi with, yes, apparently that counts as an alternate dimension.
Let's see what those bots know.
Of course I missed that one.
I know, right?
Let's see what this next dimension actually, this next entry tells us. So. We're probably halfway through.
Good news, mapping's going well. Bad news, apparently not well enough, because Caden just asked me to go faster. Wouldn't say why, but he sounded stressed, so I let it go.
Are you sure that wasn't Neil Druckmann?
Good thing I stopped doing those recordings. Wait, I'm doing one now.
Was this meant to be the Last of Us recording?
Yeah, he's like, I don't know why, but Neil keeps telling us to work faster on the game.
Went back and listened to that Kuroshi one.
Yes.
I mean, I gotta say, he must have gotten pretty far in that to be able to have to take down 32 blocks.
Well, he was a Lombax. They are pretty smart.
Alright, let's, after getting the explanation from the monk scholar, let's get to hear the next entry.
Wonder what ending he got.
I know I was going to stop doing these recordings, but I can carve out some time every once in a while. Just, I'm a genius. Dimension 31x7.
Alright, let's
Aren't
see
we
this
all?
one.
But there were these creatures. One was firing a gun and spinning himself around every other second, while the other hung out on his shoulder doing live
Yes,
commentary.
game. I too miss Jack and Dexter.
Wow.
God damn. Now I'm sad.
I've seen some cutscenes of Jack 2, and I was like, this did start out as a kid-friendly series, didn't it?
Yeah, that's the
Lord.
big meme of the franchise. The fact that Naughty Dog had no fucking idea what tone to keep for the franchise. But in a morbid kind of way, I kind of dig it. But it definitely leaves some problems, including Jack's love interest, believe it or not. But not the time.
map even faster. Caden might kill me, but listen. Instead of all the cranking and pulling a trigger to use the Dimensionator, I just converted the whole thing into a...
Oh wait, so it was your idea to put the Dimensionator be a fucking helmet?
Genius.
God damn it.
Well, it doesn't look that impossible.
If Naughty Dog don't want to do Jak and Daxter anymore, why haven't Sony just handed it off
Because
to
Sony
another
doesn't want to
dude?
have that many AA projects unless, you know, they are in a good mood or they have no idea who to give, you know, to give and to. Like,
I swear, you think they would have finally learned after Astrobot brought them more
this
success
is,
than
not just
Concord
that,
did.
This is also why the God of War Blasphemous style game caught everyone by surprise, because it's clearly not a super high budget type of game, and it was there for the anniversary of the franchise. But it's really good, and people kind of wish there were more stuff like this, something that was not super high production, that did not require that much time to work with, but was still satisfying and, you know, filled in the gaps while waiting for the big releases. It's that
And let's
so
be honest,
fucking hard.
Let's be honest, everyone would win. The fans would get games quicker, the devs probably wouldn't have to crunch as hard with super high definition graphics and whatnot, because again, if my observation is correct, I feel like incredibly high def graphics are becoming the main reason that a lot of development gets stretched out. I mean, I'm not going to say it's the only reason. Sometimes they get very ambitious with the gameplay, but I feel like more often than not, it's having to make these games so turbo high definition with all the rendering, which means that, oh, God help them if they have to start over on something, because then that's like, I don't know, another year just rendering the grass or sand particles in a certain area or whatnot.
Alright, entry number 9, if I recall correctly.
Dimension 242Y8, quite possibly the cutest dimension I've ever seen. Oh, the inhabitants were all made out of wool, I think. They could literally...
This is that Little Big Planet, clearly.
Cute.
Who, Stephen Fry or Hugh Long?
Yes.
Mapping my last dimension. So tomorrow I'm going to sleep in for an hour because I'm done, baby. I mapped every single dimension in existence. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh, I can't wait to see Caden's face when I give him the map. And tell him that I'll be going back to all those dimensions soon. There's still so much I can learn.
Not for anything, not for nothing, you know, cartographer, but I can tell you that at least some of these dimensions are not particularly interesting places to live by. And I don't mean necessarily boredom, but, you know, I wouldn't spend that much time in the Bloodborne dimension, just saying.
That said, if you can maybe go back to that first one and help out that raccoon get back to his own time, that'd be nice.
It's fine. Clearly. There you go.
The Lombaxes were feeling really random with that puzzle, I guess.
Alright, penultimate entry.
I found out why Caden has been so stressed lately. Something bad's going on. Bad enough that we need to hide as many Lombaxes as we can, and I guess all of my mapping work was to help find the perfect dimension for us to hide in, so...
Of course, it's genius! They all went to hide in Sly Cooper 5! Percival would never find them there.
What are you gonna say? I thought you were gonna say he hit them in the God of War dimension.
That would be even more
No! Like, I mean, the God of War dimension would be a terrible place to hide. Never mind the fact that with each Pantheon's falling, there's tons of death and destruction, but also the fact that...
let's get to the final entry first.
This is my final recording. If you're you're listening to this, that means you didn't make it to the new dimension with us, and I'm so sorry. We're trying hard to get everyone now, but our race is scattered across so many dimensions. This is not farewell. I left a copy of my dimensional map in the archives, and I marked down where we're all going. I wish I could have left you a Dimensionator too, but hey, I'm only one Lombax. I hope you find your way back to us, and if you do, please look me up. The name's Mags, and I'd love to hear your story.
And that's how my story ends. Hey, we
Well,
need to
I
reference
guess-
David Cage once again.
Look at the bright side. At least it wasn't an apocalyptic log where he gives it right before dying.
So yeah, that's basically what happened, and the dimensional map will be becoming plot relevant already in this part, but even later on, technically. So
I think they might enjoy the Uncharted dimension.
I don't know, man. Considering it doesn't particularly have, you know, anything outside of humans. Yes, some minor supernatural stuff, but not as much. I get the idea. The people there will be weirded out by them.
How about the PlayStation's Battlestars All Royale universe?
That functions more as a Nexus in its own right, so I don't know.
But it's genius. The world between worlds. No one would find them there.
Clearly.
Although I will say, it is interesting how they pretty much say it up straight here and there that it's not just that the Lombaxes are, you know, not in their home dimensions, but that they're actually spread across dimensions.
From what I can understand, it was a case where they fled in an emergency panic, scattering throughout in order to avoid Tachyon forces, and now they're basically they are trying to get back each other. Again, like I said, this game still doesn't answer a lot of questions, and exactly where are the Lombaxes is one of them. And like I said, I really hope that this being just a stepping stone means that in the next one we can finally properly, you know, search the Lombaxes.
It's interesting also since this kind of implies that Asimov's plan in Crack in Time was kind of futile since he thought he thought that the Lombaxes were pretty much all gathered in one place, but no, it seems like in reality all he would have done is maybe bring in like, I don't know, 5, 10 maybe if they're like...
The idea is that if he rewinded time, there would have been a scattering in the first place, you know, at all. So, you know, I get possibly what he meant, but possibly would have still been moot, because it would have been as effective, and like established, the Great Clock was not intended to be used for that purpose on the long run. So
it seems like what he would have had to do was, well, either murder or have the Lombaxes abandon Percival as a kid, basically.
Yeah, something
which,
like that.
Given how the Lombaxes are, I get the feeling they would have vetoed that.
Anyway, for the second temple, also to showcase the lightning rod that I acquired in the meantime, it shoots small projectiles that stick to the enemy, and if you connect enough to one of them, you can execute them, which causes basically a temporary paralysis. This also works on mini-bosses and bosses, believe it or not. And if you manage to have a couple of enemies in this specific state while they are nearby each other, you basically cause a chain reaction that inflicts a bit more damage and cause mass paralysis among all of them. Also, yeah, I think it's a good time now to mention, because what you need to do now is to actually defeat the ghouls here, well, specifically the robots, sorry, not to be confused with the ghouls for less, my bad, and to, you know, free the monks, and then go to the last temple to do basically the same. And again, the only variable here is that you will have to perform a small escort mission here, where the apprentice will just try to free the monks, and you need to protect her while she's at the computer, as she's about to say. So, let's talk a bit about the name that Lombax had, because it's a bit of a reference, specifically to one of the former writers of this game, Sam Maggs. And I want to keep this section very short, because a lot of talk has been done, and not in the most pleasant of ways, so I'll be sticking to just the basic facts. Sam Maggs, being a writer for comics and video games of different kinds, was hired temporarily by Insomniac to write the plot of his game. Apparently, at some point, the altercations between her and the rest of the team, the dev team, was so big that she basically either quit herself or was fired from the job. I don't think we know the exact detail, and quite frankly I don't care. The important part was she was not developing anymore the game, and the plot was heavily rewritten. I forgot the name of the other writers, but if I remember correctly, Sam Maggs is still properly credited for the game. The biggest point of contentions was the creation of the character of Rivet herself, believe it or not, because at one point the rest of the development team was actually split into just calling her potentially Ratchet and potentially having different designs, something on which Sam Maggs disagreed immensely on. And this caused part of the altercation, which ultimately ended up the character being called Rivet, and an actual dispute on who actually named her like that. To this day, there are only a case of he said she said that, and honestly, at the end of the day, I don't care, because what matters at the end is that just that the character is called like that.
It does sound messy.
It is messy.
As for the credited writers,
Go on.
you mentioned there was Lauren Mee, Nick Folkman, Mary Kenny, and Max Folkman.
So yeah, one of the reasons also why the plot at the end of the day feels a bit stitched in some places, you'll be able to see more the closer we get to the end of the game, is because we have yet another case of too many cooks in the kitchen, which seems to be plaguing a lot of game development these days. If you see something like, say, Homeworld 3, for example, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or even God of War Ragnarok, technically. Again, at the end of the day, I still fine with the plot. I think A Crack in Time was a bit better, but honestly, I've seen far technically worse written Ratchet & Clank games compared to this. I just wish that the fans did not have to be subjected to what essentially is internal squabbling between the devs. That's all.
It really can give me secondhand embarrassment when it's literally the people in charge acting like petulant children. But okay, my guess as to why we had so many writers, I wonder if they were holding a little bit of a, shall we say, trial or tryout to see, hey, which of these writers would be best suited to take on the work, because I feel like up until this time, obviously until the 2016 project, they mostly had it kept under TJ Fixman as like the lead head honcho writer. But
with only
after
two or three in total, like including himself, of just basically a small group of writers. Basically, that's what you mean, Jova.
Now, obviously, when it came to the reboot, the 2016 project, I get it. They were probably bringing in new writers because new direction and this and that, but I do wonder if the main reason that we have all these writers for this game is because somebody panicked about having to fill in the shoes of TJ Fixman, essentially. So maybe they felt they needed all these writers to patch stuff up. Maybe something went wrong with each writer, so they had to replace each one, but they still kept enough of each writer that they had to credit them and all. I will say this, though. I have already gotten that inkling that some writing bits feel a bit inconsistent. Mind you, nothing terrible, and so far I'd still take this plot over, say, stuff like Into the Nexus's plot, or, God, what little plot Q-Force had.
Also, for some reason, 80s pump-up actual music for while you actually are traversing through the trial, quote-unquote, it's called. Not sure why.
Because we need a montage.
Yeah, I guess maybe it's that, I don't know. Shit.
Oh dear.
Speaking of best friends,
Oh.
do you have one?
Again, I only kept it because there was extra dialogue. It's worth, we talked over it, but Ratchet had committed the slip-up of, mistaking this new vault for Clank, so of course he had to do some explanation, and the characters did have some level of reassurance about, how everything will still be fine and everything. Which is, okay, it will become more apparent later, technically, because, it does happen to some of the new characters, like the ones introduced in this, but I found it, okay, I wouldn't say hilarious, because at the end of the day it's still a bit of a, serious topic and everything, but, still a bit weird, but the fact that almost every single returning franchise that Sony has, based on an IP that they used to own, needs to have basically the characters going through not necessarily therapy session, but having to reflect upon themselves. It's like for some characters I get it, like Kratos absolutely, needed something like this, but if you pay attention, even Uncharted 4 and, it's a Fallout spin-off tended to have that, as for example, and, the less said about The Last of Us Part 2, the better,
Okay, when it comes to Kratos and Nathan Drake, I wonder if in that case it was the devs going, okay, we gotta make sure that these characters are setting a good example, so let's have Nathan reflect on how he shouldn't be lying to his wife just to go on adventures, and yeah, like you said, Kratos needed that reflection, so much anyway and whatnot. That just feels like natural plot progression.
It almost gets comical. Like Ratchet and Clank, I'm not sure they really needed this kind of thing. Let me assure you, the plot will do its damn hardest to justify basically what it's doing instead of feeling gratuitous on the matter, and ultimately reinforces a positive message for the both of them. But holy shit, guys, you can rip up. It's not that big of a deal.
I feel like with Ratchet and Clank, like I mentioned, I feel like that's kind of been an issue ever since the Future series started. Like, okay, I can maybe get where TJ Fixman was going, trying to give Ratchet and Clank a bit of a larger-than-life scale. It just so happened that them having all the life...
The game encourages you to actually have the fog advantage to snipe away the boss, or I can just use the certified whiz method and charging and blazing,
Oh god, we're learning from Dwibs now. But yeah, now when it came to the Future series, I wasn't too big on how they suddenly made it so that, Ratchet and Clank were these mystical, big, chosen ones, but I can get where TJ Fixman was going. Here, though, yeah, I feel like they're trying to go for something a bit different from the Future series, but in turn, I feel like one issue I have with newer Ratchet and Clank games is that it feels like they can't just, be as they is. In the sense that, Clank has to reflect on how this might be his fault. Ratchet has to reflect on how he shouldn't have done what he did with the Dimensionator. It's my fault. It's his fault. Let's not actually blame, the bad guy. Just saying.
How hilarious is it that Size Matters has a better idea to just be, the episode of the week where Ratchet and Clank are allowed to just, be heroes despite touching personal themes like, the cloning of Ratchet without his consent and all.
I know, right? Like, I guess that's the weird thing about Ratchet and Clank. Again, what worked, personally, what worked for the original trilogy was, yes, they were epics, but these were epics that more or less happened to Ratchet and Clank along the way. Like, 2 is basically, hey, we're enjoying our life of luxury, but suddenly there's the call to danger and whatnot. Or 3, where it basically goes, hey, cool, we're celebrities here, but wait, we gotta go back to our home dimension because now we're basically at war, essentially. Oh, and also we have to, get back Quark and whatnot. And yeah, like, again, Size Matters was basically literally them just getting interrupted from vacation. Secret Agent Clank, I've mentioned my critiques about that, but even that I feel kind of gets the tone of the original games better in the sense of being like an episode of the week. Mind you, one that works better is, being like an in-universe episode of Clank Show, which, yeah, I feel like the games kind of completely forgot that, hey, Ratchet and Clank are kind of celebrities in their own regards. Clank especially, who's literally an action star, like...
I think if I recall correctly, his bio in this game does mention that he had an acting career.
Yeah, like, I guess it felt weird that starting with the Future series, they kind of shirked that. All in basically to go on this more big epic space
that is
quest,
one thing, but I was more talking about how it's not even just a case for Sony IPs, because, for example, the Gears of War games and also Halo or Microsoft have been trying to do that, to be more introspective, for lack of a better term, where, characters reflect upon themselves, their past actions, and, what could have been done and if they have done something that they regret. And like I said, for characters like Kratos, that absolutely makes sense. If anything, it's a natural conclusion of their characters and potentially to make them more endearing to a new audience. But I don't know, not every single one of them needs, you know, to have a therapy session. This is why, as I mentioned a couple of times, it's so refreshing that Astrobot did not do such, you know, nonsense with its, you know, serious villain, the British alien. It's not a serious matter about revenge is bad. It's not about, oh, if you kill him, you're just gonna be as bad as him or anything. No, it's just that the bad guy is a bad guy. You need to defeat him. Let's fucking go.
Just wait, Tio. By the time of Astrobot 3, we will throw in a whole narrative about how Astro was actually wrong for defeating the British alien because
honestly, I
he was
get
a father.
Considering how they take the piece out of some of the cliches from the other Sony games, it wouldn't surprise me if they do something like that for funsies. Anyway,
That would be beautiful if they did that for fun.
with all the monks rescued, let's go properly to the archives. They actually opened us the way to go.
Also, poor KT, she talks about how she doesn't have any friends. I wonder if this adventure will give her a new family or set of friends to care about. Also, that giant mech gives me Shadow of the Colossus
It's basically
vibes.
the moving platform where the archives are. If anything, it's more similar
Oh yeah,
to Owl's
I
Moving
tried.
Castle.
I tried bits like that myself. It's just that I kept struggling on that a lot.
Sorry, Lives. It's weird because if I recall correctly in the accessibility options, there should be tools that help you with the traversal navigation.
What's the main issue you have with it, Dibs? The timing?
Yeah. And also that big gap at the end.
Again, but usually the part is slightly scripted so that you get towards the end and the apprentice notices the fissure that you can use to jump on top of the archive as the final stretch, you know. Again, it's definitely it's not treetop run from the first Spyro game, that's for sure.
Oh god.
Alright.
I also think that a lot of the first Spyro game had a bit of a weird thing with the flying in general.
Yeah.
Early installment weirdness.
It's the reason why they put the flapping extra maneuver with the triangle button starting with Spyro 2.
I forget if the remake. Oh god.
No, they did not. They actually, similar to the Crash trilogy, they tried to stay consistent with the controls as much as they could. Again, big asterisk because they did had the running shoes in Crash 2 after they beat the game, but you know what I mean. Anyway, when leveling up Mr. Fungi to level 5, he gains a partner, Miss Fungi. So, again, it's a counterpart to Miss Zircon, clearly. So it's a case of, you know, new family of sentient turrets that speak about.
You know, given what they do, I'm reminded of that Batman the Animated Series episode where Poison Ivy tries to create her own family. Spoilers, it's not a pretty sight.
No, I can't imagine.
Apparently, it's made partially of transformium, given the shifting parts.
Well, yeah, the franchise always had that kind of, you know, rotating gears that, you know, build up part of the level.
Whee!
Alright, unfortunately that means that we proceed here to fight not one but two commanders at the same time.
I love how the subtitles call them Nefarious Juggernauts, but the health bars call them Invasion Commanders.
That's because the Juggernaut is the type of enemy. Remember, it's still a mini-boss that you have fought before and you will definitely fight in the future, but they're labeled like that for this level. I guess only about the other is because I'm damaging the other one first.
I was wondering, can you trick them into attacking each other?
No, surprisingly, considering how Insomniac is a fan of classic FPS like Doom, you will think that you'll be able to get stuff like friendly fire or e-fighting, but surprisingly no, unless it's a dedicated event like two enemy factions fighting each other. It is possible, But, you know, nefarious bots do not kill each other accidentally.
Damn, I like games that let you trick an enemy into attacking its comrade.
That's like one of the few fun parts of Force Unleashed.
One of the only memorable parts of Force Unleashed too, because...
Oh, and also the force power you can use on the enemy to make them essentially kill themselves.
Yeah, the natural evolution of the Jedi mind trick.
Man, what? It really boggles my mind.
It was one of the last, if not the last game LucasArts made before the buyout from Disney and the subsequent closure of the studio.
Right, I think that did come out around 2012.
2010.
This is also why it ends with a cliffhanger that was not resolved because afterward, you know, Disney decided to decanonize effectively the duology, which, like I said, it's probably for the better because the old expanded universe at that point was reaching critical level, especially because Force Unleashed was trying to be very pivotal in establishing some specific events at the creation of the rebellion.
Tio, it finally gave us the true death of Shakti, who I'm sure probably would have turned out to have faked that death too.
Only, and not to mention, after giving her a more skimpy outfit than the one that Genndy Tartakovsky gave her.
Now, I guess if it's any consolation, Starkiller himself was kind of wearing almost nothing in that level.
There you go, there's the dimensional map. Huh?
Treasure Planet vibes.
Lombaxes. They must have built this.
My people.
My dad was the keeper of the Dimensionator. The original one, anyway.
Don't worry, Ratchet. I'm sure your father would be proud.
Sorry, Dad.
Do you miss them? The Lombaxes?
Kind of hard to miss.
Nah, they were all
Never
shitty.
met.
Fucking.
But yeah.
Technically, you met Asimov and Angela.
Perhaps one day you will find them.
Let's figure out if we can even build the Dimensionator first. Can we?
Yes.
There you go. The apprentice has the schematics uploaded in her, you know, neural cortex.
Alright then.
Now we need to actually find a place where I can actually physically build it.
I think Kit.
There you go.
Is my
That's what
favorite.
she prefers to be called now, Kit.
Kit it is.
Oh, look at that. Just like with Clank, Ratchet's helping this robot find new humanity.
We'll learn specifically why she was here in a second, because now we're about to get an entire cutscene. Actually, you will think this might lead to a gameplay section, but no, this is basically an entire cutscene. And honestly, I prefer it this way than just quote-unquote immersion. But you'll be able to see in a second.
It has been fun, Ratchet.
No, you are not about to sacrifice yourself this early in the game, honey.
No, it's not like you really do section. Instead, we're about to get a bit of a throwback. Specifically, to Giant Clank. Kit can actually grow in giant immediately, except her head. I don't know why.
Bit of a design defect, since it looks like she's having trouble peeking out of the
I
thing.
am dead convinced at some point you were supposed to have a proper turret section with Giant Kit to destroy the enemies, but they were not able to finish properly. Like, fuck it, it's a cutscene.
Wait, so you don't even get to ever play as her in her warbot form?
Again, I prefer this than having something with very minimal gameplay disguised, which is the cutscene disguise that Sony normally loves to do, so I'm okay with this.
That's a shame, like, back in the original game we got these cool...
Yeah, red eyes means that Kit is a bit more aggressive and, yeah, otherwise she may struggle to recognize people.
So that's probably why we won't see her using that giant form often then. Which, you know what? Fair enough. That's a good reason to not abuse it, essentially.
I was built to be a weapon. To keep the Emperor's galaxy secure. One night on patrol, I spotted a rebel in the Imperial Zone. So I tried to...
Wonder who that is.
Yeah, I really wonder who that is. This is one of the few faults of the game's plot is that they're trying to build up this as a big mystery thing when it's incredibly obvious already from this first cutscene.
Ah, but guys, it could be anyone. That being said, this is interesting since this implies that in this version, the robots are supposed to be able to switch between giant to small, whereas in the original dimension, it was implied that Clank was only small because of a defect.
Well, it could turn giant still with some technology that the Blargs were developing on Gaspar, if you recall.
Perhaps. Just this once. Yes, I will try.
Now you can make the argument that Ratchet is just doing this out of, well, copying, out of the fact that he really just misses a partner and thinks that Kit might be, a good alternative. Not necessarily to replace Clank, but to also give a chance to a new one, while at the same time having a bit of comfort for himself. But no, not really. It's just a case that he's just altruistic for the sake of it.
I will say this, unlike the 2016 project, I can believe that at least at this point Ratchet has developed
because we got
to that
there,
point.
it was a beginning, a middle part, and an end.
Yes, thank you. Okay, that being said, maybe one
Also,
could say...
I'm not particularly fond of this weapon. It's a shield projector similar to the one of Reinhardt in Overwatch, and you can repulse enemies, by pressing the proper trigger button. But I argue it's not as useful as it may appear. Yes, it blocks projectile, but it doesn't help you as much into, killing the people that throw projectiles.
Is it one of those cases where basically you have to stand still for it to
No,
even
you
really
can
be
move.
effective too?
Compared to the other shields, it's a bit of an encumbrance, because the other shields in the older games you could just pop up and it was a sphere around you that helped you. But in this, no, you need to actively use it as a proper weapon that circles around you.
I'd say that their mentality is most times you only have to worry about the enemies in front of you with how game progression works, but there are sequences like the arena where you are definitely surrounded, so that is a bit weird.
Again, you can still move at the end of the day, so hold on.
I am,
Going on an adventure? I know, how exciting! I wish you both good luck. And good luck on Kadaro Station.
How did he know?
I wonder that all the time.
I read the script.
Kinda. We
Yeah.
will actually learn who... Remember, Gary mentioned about Clank being known by his father. We will learn next time we are about to save a dimension. We will learn exactly who the father of Gary is supposed to be.
Let's build us a Dimensionator.
Alright, Ratchet is supposed to go with Kit next on Cordelion to build the Dimensionator, but first, next part, we'll instead join back with Rivet and Clank as we travel to Blizon Prime in order to get one of the components needed for the Dimensionator, the Phase Quartz. So see you for that.
So see you then.